confirm what you were saying, which is this. I was an undergraduate at the University of Chicago and went through that same Straussian program with all the rest of them, including Wolfowitz, who was there. All of them were there. And Strauss had just retired, but I studied with his right-hand man, Cropsey. What we have to understand is that Strauss's mentor and guru and sponsor in Germany was Carl Schmitt, the diehard Nazi law professor who justified every hideous atrocity Hitler and the Nazis inflicted on everyone, including the Jews, which is why then Strauss broke with them at that point. But these neoconservatives are neo-Nazis. This is a neo-Nazi cabal here, right at the center of power in the United States government, in the Pentagon, in the White House, in the CIA, who are carrying out what you correctly called seems to be Nazi policies. And that is correct. We have a Nazi philosophy at work here. They've spent the past generation trying to infiltrate the academic world. I've been fighting these people ever since I was at the University of Chicago. And we see now law professors at elite law schools like the University of Chicago openly advocating Schmitt. We even now see professors on the so-called left citing Schmitt without mentioning he's a Nazi. It's very similar to the left's fascination with Heidegger, who, as you know, used to lecture in his Nazi uniform and fired his teacher and mentor, Jasper, because he was Jewish. So you are correct. We're dealing here with a Nazi philosophy and a Nazi cabal going back to Strauss and Schmitt.
Sure, and then just look at Bush's lawyers, John Yoo and Alberto Gonzalez, saying we can bury people alive, we can rip their toenails out, we can cut their genitals off. I mean, these people just think they're God, and now this craziness is continuing into Obama. It's just sheer insanity.
Right, and we see Nuland in charge of the provocations against Russia over Ukraine. This is a matter of public record. She orchestrated that coup d'etat, overthrew the democratically elected government of Yanukovych. She's a neocon. She used to work for Cheney.
The main group in the party that they turned power over to when they threw the elected group over are neo-Nazis who actually Heil Hitler.
That is correct. If you look at all the reports coming out of Ukraine, these paramilitary organizations are Nazi direct descendants of Nazi formations and movements during World War II. And now Obama put 300 U.S. military trainers in Ukraine. They're now allegedly to train the Ukrainian National Guard, not the Ukrainian Army. Well, who is the Ukrainian National Guard? It is all these neo-Nazi paramilitary formations.
The ones carrying out atrocities. So what's the grand strategy, or is this political insanity? Because then you've got the open funding of Al-Qaeda and ISIS as if we don't know it. But then Defense Intelligence leaks that we're doing it. So we have leaks on the anthrax, leaks on Al-Qaeda. It sounds like a lot of good people in the government are really doing the right thing.
Well, I think so. That there are some what appears to be principled people in the Pentagon, maybe the CIA, I don't know, who are leaking this type of information to the American people. So at least we have some idea of what the plans are behind the scenes. But now today, the Associated Press, you have the Pentagon threatening Russia with a first strike of nuclear weapons. Well, that is deliberately destabilizing. How do you think the Russians are going to respond to this. They very well could go on alert again. I really don't know.
It's just totally insane. But meanwhile, Obama's playing golf. They're crashing bicycles. I mean, is there a method of the madness, or have they gone insane?
Well, again, it's the old debate about Hitler. Was Hitler insane or not? And I've read a lot of Hitler and the Langer biography and whatever. I just think what we've seen here for the past generation is a Nazi philosophy and Nazi operatives at work at the highest level of the United States government, and that's what's going on. If you want to call it insane, fine. I don't know where that gets us. But I think, if we study the history of the Nazis, and you pointed out their attack on Russia, the Russians will fight us to the death. If I've been over to Stalingrad, they even invited me to honor the victims and the defenders of Stalingrad when I was over there, which I did in a ceremony. The Russians will fight us to death. There's no question about it. And if these Straussians, these neocons, believe that the Russians are going to back down, I think they're wrong.
Well, in closing, shifting gears over the Middle East, these Salafists, these Al-Qaeda type folks are the people Hitler funded again. And I'm not saying it's a Nazi conspiracy, but clearly they took the Nazi blueprint that they got at Nuremberg, and that's even the 68 Gun Control Act was actually that changed. I mean, that's on record. They just took not just the Straussians, but so many others. I mean, our troops dress like it. They wear the Kurzel helmet. We call it Homeland, Reichland. They are just basically doing the Fuhrer precept that the executive branch can do whatever it wants. It just sounds like a bunch of diseased lawyers came over and just taught a bunch of sick students this, and they bought into the power trip, sitting at their knee. And then you add some of the folks that fled Russia, the Trotskyites, who then also went from being communist to fascist, sitting there at the Nazi knee. It is just sick. And you got 36,000 top Nazis brought over because they would autocratically follow orders to run a bunch of agencies, not just NASA. It is like, I'm not saying it's a Nazi conspiracy, but it is like we got smallpox from the Nazis and now we have it. It's like we have that power-mad disease, that autocratic control freak disease. And that's why I call it a mental illness, because, if you love your kids, even if you're a maniac, you don't want to start a war with people with 10,000 nuclear weapons. I mean, it's just they just seem like they have death wishes or something, Dr. Boyle.
Well, the Nazis did too, when, what could I say, when Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, he should have studied his history and he didn't. So there you go. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a group of people who believe that they are above history. That very famous statement, we're an empire and we make history and then you can catch up to it.
Karl Rove.
By the time you've caught up to it, Karl Rove down there in Texas, we'll make some more history again. So that is the mentality. I've seen it here in operation ever since I entered the University of Chicago in 1968 and then went to Harvard. As I said before in your program, I went through the exact same Harvard PhD program that produced both Kissinger and Brzezinski and Huntington before me. And that's the way they train you to think at Harvard, just like the Nazis, right?
Well, I just hope cooler minds prevail. And I'm not glorifying the military leadership, but compared to these people, it was Dempsey who went to Obama a couple years ago and said, no, we're not going to knock over Assad with the military because the troops won't go along with it. It seems to be the soldiers that have been in combat who know that this isn't fun. It seems to be chicken hawks who've never fought that think it's cute to play war. And just, reading what Hitler actually wrote near the end of World War II, he followed Napoleon. And I know you know this, Dr. Boyle, but visited his grave, all that. He thought he was above history. He knew why Napoleon failed, and he believed Operation Barbarossa he was in competition with Napoleon, and Hitler thought he was better than Napoleon, basically.
Right, and also you're right about Dempsey. It was Dempsey who told Obama they were not going to attack Syria. So at that point, then Obama and his CIA people, remember Obama's been a lifelong CIA asset, they then activated ISIS. And I said that right at the beginning. And that's where ISIS, ISIL, this Islamic State come from. When they couldn't do an outright military attack because of military opposition, they then activated ISIS. All these guys were in U.S. custody in Iraq, and we turned them to our favor, to our benefit. Now the Defense Intelligence Agency is admitting that. So you're perfectly correct. Yes.
Well, I talked to a lot of military folks, retired generals, recently retired colonels, lieutenant colonels, and other folks, and they're all completely freaked out. They said the military's falling apart. They won't even fix equipment. They won't even give them health care. It's all just a bunch of delusional, guys up there who think they're invincible because they have Harvard degrees. No offense to you. You know them. You've said that. On power trips, believing they control reality, like Karl Rove said. It just sounds like megalomania to me. Caligula all over again. Dr. Boyle, thank you so much. Where's the best place for people to find your latest book?
If you just Google my name, all my books will come up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the broadcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. My best to your audience and everyone down there in Texas.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, it is just totally insane. I mean, the time we're living in, if we survive this, we're going to look back and just go, what was wrong with us? Like Germans following Hitler or something. I mean, it is just, people can say, well, the Russians were bad. Whatever. It was stupid for Hitler to go attack them. Don't even choose sides. U.S., Hitler, Russia, whatever. It was dumb. 21 million Germans died. Almost all of them in Russia. Well, I mean, why? So Hitler could outdo Napoleon? It's a power trip with these globalists. They think they're... Man, I've been around some of these billionaires. I've been around some nice ones, too. But some of them, and all they do is just walk around going, I don't like that guy. He didn't like it. I'll take him out. Blah, blah. Most of it's all a bunch of talk. And I'm just sick of being around men who sit around and talk about, well, I don't like this guy in business. I ought to just kill him. Just stuff like that. And then 9 times out of 10, these guys have never been in a vicious knife fight. They've never been in the military. They've never fought for their lives, in a gang fight. They have never lived it. People that have been in real stuff generally are wary of it because they understand it's real. Have you seen how soft Obama and Karl Rove are? And they just need to stop. Stop it. Stop it right now. Stop trying to take the whole world over. I mean, in Julius Caesar's day, at least he was taking over, backwards areas and giving them some civilization, and he was a tyrant. And there weren't nuclear weapons. Julius Caesar was like a cupcake compared to these people. I mean, he was a humanitarian compared to them. And I would judge him as a bad guy. But, I mean, you look at the people we've got now. Hitler was a complete psychopath. But he wasn't really a sociopath. He thought he was doing something good. You look at people who have running things now, it's just, in a way, they're worse than Hitler. I mean, Hitler had been in the military. Hitler had a Congressional Medal of Honor, Iron Cross First Class. I mean, only a few hundred people had that in World War I. I mean, he was a war hero. That's why he thought he could win all these wars and do better than the generals. Today, it's the inverse. It's just a bunch of arrogant Harvard guys. It's like Corzine making 40-to-1 bets with other people's money. They're crazy. We're going to come back with Sha'Carri Jackson's report and more. There have to be 10 women to every man to repopulate the earth, a breeding program, and the females would have to be selected for their appeal because of the duty of the men. The women would have to be of a sexually stimulating nature. And I am quoting Dr. Strangelove there. Every time I warn people about fluoride, the media goes, oh, yeah, Dr. Strangelove, General Ripper, you're crazy. Really, is that why Harvard admits, the great Harvard, that it's brain-damaging people and the feds are saying cut it back? Sane people that love their kids are going to take this world back. We don't want GMO. We don't want rat poison. We're done. Here's Sha'Carri Jackson's report. It's really important. I'll be back this Sunday, Lord willing, 4 to 6 p.m. Central, with the Sunday